10 spine-chilling tales of haunted reality. Discover the cursed testimonies of 2025 exposed. The rain pounded against the windows of Laura's crumbling house in Cedar Hollow, a forgotten suburb where shadows flickered like whispers of the past. She was alone, with only the ghostly echoes of her children's laughter filling the silence, but beneath it all, dread gnawed at her insides. Halloween was near, and she wanted to create magic for Ethan and little Lily, despite the dark clouds gathering above their heads. Having just lost her job, Laura felt the weight of desperation. She needed decorations, anything to mask the despair that clung to their home like a winter chill. With each creaking step, she ventured into the dusty attic, the air thick with must and memories. Boxes piled high, whispers of a time long gone seemed to echo in the corners. Suddenly, she stumbled upon a collection of old videotapes, their labels dust-covered and faded. Each one bore a haunting promise of stories from families who lived in her house long before her. They had vanished without a trace, their fates reduced to mere urban legends. A curious shiver ran down her spine, but she couldn't resist. She dragged the VHS player to the living room, heart racing as she inserted the tape. The screen flickered to life, revealing frantic voices: a mother, a father, and their child. "We had to leave, we had to escape," the mother screamed, eyes wide with terror. Shadows danced around them, words spilled like a chilling warning from beyond the grave. "Cedar Hollow is cursed. It takes your children." The lights in Laura's home began to flicker, cold sweats forming on her brow. She brushed it off as stress, squeezing her eyes shut. Later that night, as Laura sank into a restless sleep, Ethan's nightmare unfurled in the darkness. She heard him murmur a name: Clara. Who was Clara? Laura's heart raced as she sat up. Ethan had never mentioned her before. Perhaps he was just dreaming. She crept to his room, a lingering doubt coiling in her chest. The moment she stepped inside, she noticed strange symbols appearing on the walls. Each letter seemed to writhe and twist, only visible from her peripheral vision, as if they were alive, taunting her sanity. The days grew heavier, tension thickening like smoke in their little home. Flickering lights, whispers echoing through the halls. Just when she thought things couldn't get worse, Mr. Keller, their neighbor, knocked on the door. He smiled a tight, knowing grin that sent chills straight to her core. "You're not alone, Laura," he said, offering help. A spark of relief pierced her anxiety, but doubt gnawed at her. How did he know so much about her struggles? The town itself felt off, strange noises at night, pets disappearing, and a whispering crowd behind closed doors. As Halloween approached, the tapes revealed deeper horrors, the eerie connections binding the disappearances to the very people who surrounded her. "Help us," those faces begged, their voices haunting her dreams. And then the moment of revelation hit like a spectral hand grasping at her throat. Clara was just a child, a precious soul lost in the fog of Cedar Hollow's dark history. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Laura's heart raced as she prepared to confront Mr. Keller, the truth bubbling to the surface in a feverish rush. Just then, a loud crash sent her sprawling against the wall, darkness swallowing the room, smothering her attempt at reason. And there, in the abyss, a soft giggle echoed a child's laughter that echoed with chilling familiarity. As her heart pounded, realization struck. They were more than just a haunted family, they were now part of a sinister dance, fated to reclaim what was lost. Would they be swallowed by Cedar Hollow just like so many before, or could they escape the tendrils of fear that lurked in the shadows? Laura's heart hammered in her chest, the laughter echoing off the walls as if mocking her courage. She blinked hard, forcing her eyes to adjust to the dimness, fingers trembling at her sides. Shadows danced closer, flickering in and out of sight. "Ethan?" "Lily," she called, but her voice trembled, swallowed by the silence that loomed heavily around her. The air grew colder, wrapping around her like an oppressive fog. The laughter faded, but the weight of dread thickened. A sudden thump emanated from the attic, followed by the creaking of floorboards as if someone or something was moving above her. Fear rooted Laura to the spot, each breath constricted in her throat. Gathering her resolve, she stepped toward the staircase. The wooden steps creaked ominously under her weight, sending shivers down her spine. What if she found something she didn't want to see? A squeeze of her heart warned her she might not be ready for the truth. But she had to know, for her children's sake, she had to confront whatever lingered in the darkness. When she reached the attic door, it hung ajar, an invitation that felt more like a trap. The pale light of the hallway flickered, casting weak beams into the depth of the gloom. With a trembling hand, she pushed it open, the door creaking in protest. Inside, the room seemed alive, the shadows rolling like dark waves against the walls. The air held a thick, electric charge, buzzing with unspent energy. Laura stepped cautiously, eyes darting from box to box, memories spilling out from every dusty corner. As she ventured deeper, her heartbeat became the only sound in the oppressive silence. Suddenly, she noticed a figure standing just out of reach, small and wispy. "Clara," she whispered, recognizing the name that had haunted Ethan's dreams. The air crackled, and the figure turned, its face shrouded in darkness. A mirthful giggle echoed, and it beckoned with a skeletal hand. "Come play with us," Laura panic struck. Every instinct screamed for her to turn and run, but her feet felt glued to the ground. "What do you want?" she shouted, desperation lacing her voice. The figure tilted its head, an unsettling tilt that revealed hollow eyes, eternally fixed on her. "Join us," it whispered, voice like dry leaves scuttling across pavement. "We've always been together forever." The walls warped, closing in around her, suffocating her sanity. Laura stumbled backwards, searching for escape. Just then, the attic window shattered, sending glass spiraling through the air. Moonlight broke through the chaos, illuminating the childlike presence. Clara hovered, laughter morphing into shrieks that pierced through the hush of the night. The shadows writhed around her, turning the once familiar attic into a nightmarish realm. "You don't have to fight, Laura," the figure cooed, advancing. "Don't you understand? It's your choice. Fight or join." And then, from behind her, Ethan's voice broke the spell. "Mommy!" he cried, fear washing over his innocent words. In that moment, the shadow lunged. A dark shape surged past Laura, heading for the source of the call. "No!" She spun around, adrenaline surging. Ethan stood just beyond the threshold, eyes wide, Lily clinging to his side. "Mommy! It's coming!" Glimmers of hope flickered alongside her mounting terror. Laura lunged for her children, reaching desperately, but the darkness closed in, thick and consuming. Stumbling back, Laura managed to thrust her arms around Ethan and Lily just as a chilling gust of wind snatched the breath from her lungs. The shadow loomed, an insatiable maw of despair ready to engulf them all. "Not again!" Laura screamed, panic rising. What did it want with her children? In that moment, her resolve solidified. She would not let Cedar Hollow take them like it had taken so many others. But could she protect them from what had already claimed their home? As the wind howled, the shadow writhed, hunger driving it closer. Laura gripped the hands of her children, their warmth giving her strength. What was she willing to do to save them? Just before everything went black, she made a silent vow to escape this curse. But did that mean confronting the very evils that had entwined themselves in their lives? A cold laugh echoed in her ears as she pondered the choices ahead. And there, in that sorrowful space, awaited the ominous possibility that some stories can't be escaped, they must be faced. What new horrors would she uncover when dawn broke, if she survived the night? Laura's world collapsed into darkness, and she held her children tightly, the warmth of their bodies a fragile shield against the encroaching terror. The wind screeched like a banshee, whipping through the shattered window, drawing the last remnants of safety from the attic. She breathed heavily, her heart pounding against her ribcage like a prisoner desperate to escape. "Stay close," she whispered fiercely, each word strained and fearful. Ethan's face was pale, eyes wide with a mix of confusion and fright, while Lily clutched her brother's shirt with trembling fingers. The unease in Laura's chest grew, a burning certainty that whatever haunted Cedar Hollow would not easily allow them to escape. Suddenly intense silence enveloped them, and the wind died suddenly as if it had been sucked out from the room. She glanced up, her instincts screaming to look away from the void in the corner of the attic, where the darkness pooled thicker than night itself. She noticed it again, the shadow that had lunged, lurking just past the fringes of fading moonlight, waiting for her to make the next move. "Mommy," Ethan's small voice broke the stifling quiet. "What's wrong with Clara?" Clara, the name twisted like a knife in her heart. It's not just a ghost, she thought. It's a promise of something worse. She forced herself to meet Ethan's gaze, willing her voice to be steady. "She's not going to hurt us. We just have to be brave." But even as she spoke, doubts flickered in her mind. Clara had been a child who had died here in this house. Did that make her a victim, or a predator? As the darkness stirred and bunched closer, Laura felt her stomach lurch, anxiety tightening its grip. She couldn't allow her children's innocent view to cloud their judgment. There was a rustling from the shadow, a slow unfolding that felt like claws stretching towards the light. Laura steadied her breath. "We have to find a way out," she urged, her voice sudden and firm. She pushed herself up, her legs trembling beneath her. Out of the corner of her eye, something glimmered, a small wooden chest half buried under a tangle of dusty boxes. A tiny spark of hope ignited in her chest, and she could hardly think, just react. "That way. We'll check there." Laura ushered her children forward, their feet rushing across the creaking floorboards. Shadows leapt greedily, as the whisper of Clara surrounded them, her laughter sinister and sweet all at once. "You're too late, Laura, you cannot stop what has already begun." Ignoring the voice, Laura knelt beside the chest, fumbling at the lock. With a sharp tug, it sprang open, unveiling an array of old photographs and faded letters. But below them, tucked away like a secret, lay a small silver locket that caught the moonlight, glimmering with a strange allure. "Mommy, look!" Ethan's voice, filled with surprise, cut through the whispers. "What is it?" Laura's heart raced. The locket felt significant, pulsing with energy, almost alive in her palm. "I don't know yet," she whispered. "But it might help us." As she clasped it shut, the attic door slammed, vibrating the walls and sending her heart into a frenzy. The shadows surged forward, thick tendrils wrapping around the children, pulling them toward the darkness. "No! No!" Laura screamed, reaching desperately, grasping at the air, fighting against the intangible. The locket burned cold in her hand, now feeling heavy with the weight of their fate. "Join us!" a multitude of voices chanted in unison, each word laced with promises she felt would drown her entire family in despair. Forever the world around her spun, the shadows coaxing her children with lies, stories of joy and play, but Laura could see it wasn't real. She squeezed the locket tightly as panic twisted in her gut. "I won't let you take them," she shouted defiantly, hoping to drown out the sinister chant closing in. But would the locket unleash any power, or would it trap them all in this nightmare? As she gripped Ethan and Lily, willing all of her energy into a shield, the shadow lunged again, fueled by a rage that felt familiar and chilling. Would this terrifying confrontation lead them to the truth or destroy them? In that moment, everything hinged on her next choice, and as the darkness loomed, the air thickened with dread. What secrets lay hidden in the locket? Would it be their salvation or their curse? Laura squeezed the locket tightly, its cold metal biting into her palm, a tangible reminder of hope amidst despair. She shot a furious glare at the shadow, which twisted and writhed like a living thing, hunger glowing in its depths. It wanted her children. No, it needed them. Ethan, Lily. She cried, her voice breaking. Hold on to me. We're getting out of here. The murmur of shadows filled her ears, growing into a cacophony of despair. You cannot escape, she belongs to us forever. They clawed at her resolve, making every breath feel like a battle. Suddenly, the locket flickered in the dim light, a brief shimmer that seemed to repel the advancing darkness. Just a flicker, but it was enough to fuel her desperation. This is a gift, Clara. Laura shouted into the void, and it's not yours. She forced the locket open, revealing the tarnished photograph inside. It was worn, a face she could not recognize yet felt deeply entwined with her own life. A young girl with sad, haunting eyes. Was it Clara? Or was she staring into the shadows of her own children's future? The shadow recoiled, hissing as the light from the locket illuminated the attic walls. Stop! Ethan cried, covering his ears against the shrieking noise erupting from the dark. Mommy, please. Don't let go. She commanded, determination flooding through her veins. We're stronger than this. With a swift motion, she turned and ran toward the attic window, pulled by a desperate hope. A sliver of moonlight spilled through the cracks, its brightness beckoning to her like a road leading out of the darkness. The pulse of the locket quickened in her grip, a heartbeat echoing the rhythm of her racing mind. Mommy! The shadows! Lily screamed, they're wrapping around my legs. Laura glanced down, seeing dark fingers gripping her children, as if the shadows had taken form, greedily entwining themselves around their small limbs. No! Not my babies! She yanked the locket open again, raising it high, the photograph glowing fiercely. What do you want? She shouted, her voice thick with despair. What do you want from us? The whispers grew louder, swirling faster, a tumult of chaos crashing against her mind. She was ours first. We were waiting for her return, Clara. The name wove its way through the shadows, and for a moment, they paused, a stillness settling in the attic. Clara must pay the price. Laura felt her heart plummet. What price? But a heavy silence draped over them again. She didn't recognize the answer, yet it thrummed heavy in her gut. The locket began to heat, almost burning her palm, releasing a strange light that was at once inviting and terrifying. Let her go! She screamed, desperation melding with fury. She thrust the locket into the darkness, as if casting a spell, the light erupting like a flare against the night. I will not let you take my children. The shadow pulled back, twisting violently, but something was changing. Join us or let them go. The choice was cruel, a game of eternal stakes. Laura's breath hitched as she felt tears prick her eyes. You want Clara? She whispered through shaky breaths. You can have me instead. The whispers grew shrill, the shadows thrumming with rage and fear. Lies. Your fear feeds our power. With trembling hands, she clutched the locket, knowing she would not bargain with these fiends. It was now or never. Whatever the secrets held inside might mean, letting go could seal their fate, a choice too dreadful to ponder, but then she noticed a darker figure rising among the shadows, a face she knew well yet it was not her own. You don't have to do this, Clara, whispered the figure, its voice impossibly sweet yet laced with menace. Do you really think you can save them? It taunted, an eerie smile stretching across its features. The shadows swarmed, and at that moment, Laura felt the first true flicker of dread tuck itself deep into her heart, coiling tighter around the awareness that they were running out of time. As Clara's figure shifted, a chill swept through the attic. Every shadow recoiled except one, a veiled darkness inching closer, thickening. Around the children, the walls trembled, and Laura felt the pull of despair threatening to draw her in. What have you done? Clara hissed from the shadows, her eyes like deep wells of night. Was Clara the key to their escape, or the harbinger of their doom? With the shadows inching closer, Laura braced herself for a fight, but time was slipping away, and every second felt like an eternity. Would her defiance unlock the truth, or was it already too late? Something deep in her gut stirred, the locket pulsing with urgency, but how long could it last against the encroaching dark? Laura's heart raced, pounding like a drum inside her chest as she eyed the flickering shadows tightening around her children. They were slipping, inch by agonizing inch, into the void. Grabbing Ethan and Lily's hands with a fierce grip, she shouted, "We have to fight back. Don't let go." The darkness loomed, creeping ever closer, coaxing with eerie whispers that ebbed and flowed like a sickening tide. "Join us or let them go." It struck her like a blow. A knife of betrayal. Clara's figure twisted in the dark, morphing into a grotesque silhouette of fear. "You cannot win!" It shrieked, a cacophony that clawed at her ears, merging seamlessly with the cries of her children. "No!" Laura screamed, the need to protect her kids igniting a flame of defiance. She threw herself forward, the locket radiating a desperate light that flickered like a distant star. It cast fleeting beams upon the shadows, illuminating small faces that twisted in agony. "Let them go. They are not yours." But the shadows only laughed, a deep, chilling sound that resonated through the attic like thunder. "She belongs to us. Sacrifice is the key to our release." Laura felt the cold dread seep deeper into her bones. Every breath was weighed down by the suffocating threat enveloping them. The locket burned hotter in her grip, almost like a heartbeat syncing with the pounding in her temples. "And if I refuse?" She dared to challenge, her voice quivering but resolute. "Then they will become ours forever." A sudden rush of memories flooded through her mind, the late-night bedtime stories, the laughter ringing through their home, the promises she made to always keep them safe. Each memory became a string binding her to her children, a fierce reminder of what truly mattered. Gritting her teeth, she stepped forward, her voice rising above the cacophony. "I will find Clara. I will free you from this nightmare." Her heart echoed her determination, sending a rush of warmth throughout her body, the fiery light from the locket illuminating every dark corner of the room. "Foolish mother." The shadows screeched as tendrils lashed out, trying to ensnare her. "You cannot win this battle." She felt one slip around her ankle, icy fingers grasping fiercely. Panic clawed at her throat, but she fought against it, digging her heels into the floorboards. "Ethan. Lily. Trust me. Focus on my voice. Mommy." They cried, terror lacing their pleas. Something in the locket pulsed again, harder now, sending waves of energy splintering through her arm. It felt almost alive, vibrating with hidden power. It offered her a glimmer of knowledge, a fleeting vision of a purpose greater than her instinct to protect. Clara's face flickered in her mind again, haunting yet familiar. "Stay close," she commanded, raising the locket above their heads. "I'll discover the truth of this curse." With renewed strength, she lunged forward, the shadows recoiling from the fierce light as they shrieked, echoing like a siren in the night. As she approached Clara's spectral form, the air shimmered, thick with tension and dread. "You were once here, and I will find you." But Clara smiled, the shadows flickering behind her like an angry storm. "You think you are saving them? They will be lost to you unless you embrace the darkness." And as the locket surged with heat, the attic began to shake, dust and debris swirling around them, forming a vortex of despair and fear. It felt like a noose tightening, a countdown toward an inevitable conclusion. "Laura." "The shadows." Lily shrieked, terror painting her small features. "They're everywhere." The dark whispers grew deafening, "Join us. Only then will your children be spared." The pressure was crushing. With a steely defiance, Laura made her choice. "I will never join you," she shouted, and as the shadows lunged, she braced herself, ready to shield her children, knowing there might not be a way out. But then, a glimmering path appeared, an opening in the chaos, a chance for salvation. "Go. Now!" Laura yelled, pushing her kids forward. Could they escape the looming darkness? Would they triumph over the curse, or was This the moment they were lost forever in the depths. Behind them, the shadows seemed to howl, launching forward with a vengeance. Laura gripped the locket, its power surging, hoping time had not run out. But as the shadows closed in, the chilling question hung in the air: was the way out truly the way to freedom, or would it lead them deeper into the nightmare? The air crackled with tension as Laura pushed Ethan and Lily ahead, their small figures almost swallowed by the swirling shadows. The attic grew colder with each passing second, as if a winter storm was whirling around them. She could feel the darkness nipping at her heels, a relentless predator eager to claim its prey. "Faster!" she urged, her voice tight with urgency. The locket pulsed, a tiny sun in a black sea. But doubt snaked through her mind. What if this path led them deeper into danger? What if the light was just another lure? Lily stumbled, her breath coming in sharp gasps. "Mommy, I can't know." "You can. Keep going." Laura's heart sank as fear twisted her stomach. She snatched Lily up, cradling her against her side, and dug deep for strength. Ethan clutched his little sister's hand tightly as they ran, the shadows twisting around them like snakes eager to strike. Every step felt heavier, the floor creaking ominously beneath them. The locket's warmth dripped into her palm, but she couldn't let it go. It was their lifeline. "Join us! Join us!" The shadows wailed, mockery lacing their cries. "You cannot escape your fate." Laura stole a glance back, and the sight made her blood run cold. Clara's warped figure stood at the threshold where the shadows writhed and danced. A smile stretched across its face, stretching too wide, revealing teeth like shards of glass. "You can save them, Laura. All you have to do is embrace me." "Never." Laura howled, defiance pouring from her. Clara's voice echoed through the darkness, trying to infiltrate her thoughts, but she threw it off like a blanket of ice. Ethan pointed, his voice trembling. "Mom! Look!" At the edge of a flickering shadow, a window opened, a bleeding light that flickered like a candle fighting a gust. Hope ignited in Laura's chest, and she surged forward, dragging her children along. "Hold on!" she shouted over the chaotic screams, their own voices muffled by the din of roiling darkness. The path tightened, but she felt the locket's heartbeat resonate louder, pounding against her own. "We're almost there." But the shadows surged, a solid wall of blackness ready to crush them. Tendrils snaked toward them, clawing at her legs, pulling with icy fingers. It felt like an army was rising to claim them, every shadow a soul lost to despair. "Mommy!" Lily screamed, her tiny fingers slipping from Laura's grasp as she was pulled in two directions. "No!" Laura screamed, lunging to grab hold of her again. The shadows surged forward, swallowing Lily in their embrace. In that split second, horror flooded through Laura's veins. The screams of her children mixed with Clara's triumphant laughter. "Look what you've done. Sacrifice is the only way. Choose the one who shall be yours." The air grew thick, and a choice loomed heavy before Laura. She could feel it, the dark pulsating promise of escape. Just a simple step back into the shadows, and everything would be okay again. Ethan, Lily, even Clara would be free. The lure was intoxicating. "Choose now." Clara shrieked, the clarity of her voice breaking through the din. "Mommy, save me." Lily cried, her voice drenched in terror. That cry shattered her moment of weakness. Laura bared her teeth, steeling herself against the overpowering urge. "I won't lose you. Never." With a surge of determination, she grasped the locket tightly, closed her eyes, and shouted, "This ends now." Suddenly, a brilliant light exploded from the locket, blinding and pure. It shot through the shadows, illuminating the entire attic. But could it truly repel the darkness? As the light flooded around them, the whispers transformed into screams of rage. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the light faltered. Shadows coalesced around the children again, tugging at them, swallowing their cries. "Save yourselves. Laura screamed, blinding light fading, confidence dwindling. Would they break free, or was this the end? As chaos reigned, she fought to keep her children close, but the darkness hung heavy. Would her resolve last until the dawn finally broke, or would they descend into the very depths of despair Clara had promised? And as the final shadows loomed, the haunting question rippled through the air: what price would she pay to save the ones she loved? The light flickered and waned, the shadows recoiling as if stung, but they quickly regrouped, relentless and hungry. Laura's heart pounded against her ribs, a frantic drum echoing in the thickening air. Lily! Ethan! She cried, her voice desperate as her children's faces vanished into the shadows, their outlines blurring in the tightening grip of dusk. The locket pulsed against her palm, its warmth a stark contrast to the icy fingers trying to reclaim her children. She felt their panic seep into her like a cold sweat. Please! She whispered, clutching the locket tighter, forcing her will into every syllable. The shadows twisted and writhed, voices snarling, join us no. Laura screamed, the word tearing from her throat like a wild animal. I will not. She focused, picturing the light between them strong and unwavering. It was a beacon. With renewed fury, she raised the locket, letting its radiance spill into the darkness. You won't take them. You can't have them. But the darkness surged back, gathering in a frenzied storm, hungry and feral. Shadows rushed at her, clawing at her, threatening to pull her into their depths. As they lunged, she caught a glimpse of Clara's face again, distorted and gleeful, relishing in the chaos. Clara crooned, the tone sickly sweet. You know the truth. Only one can escape. It's their lives or yours. No. Laura's heart raced, a gnawing dread settling in her stomach. The shadows pressed closer, their breath hot and rancid, drowning out her thoughts. Doubt seeped in. What if she was failing them? What if the only way to save her children was to give in? Ethan's voice broke through the noise, sharp and heart-wrenching. Mom! Please! Tendrils of shadow tugged at him, whispering promises of safety, a way out. She could feel them creeping into her thoughts, planting seeds of fear and despair. What do I do? The glow from the locket began to fade, the pulsating light flickering like a dying star. Laura's resolve began to falter, her grip wavering as she felt the shadow's cold caress tickling her skin. She stumbled back, teetering on the edge of surrender, ready to choose survival over sacrifice. But then she saw them, her children caught in the snare of the darkness, fear etched deep into their faces. Real, terrifying, raw fear. Wrapping her arms around them one last time, she felt their warmth, their love pushing through the overwhelming despair. No! She roared, shaking her head violently to dispel the shadows creeping into her mind. You will not take them. With a primal scream, she thrust the locket forward, the light erupting in a dazzling wave that surged through the attic like a tidal wave. But the darkness roared back, the shadows shrieking in an unearthly chorus, a cacophony of rage and anguish. Laura's heart sank as Clara's laughter blended with their cries, a twisted symphony. Futile. You cannot fight fate. Clara's voice echoed, mocking and cold. Suddenly, cracks began to form in the very fabric of shadows, the darkness splitting apart as the light fought to reclaim its space. For every inch the light gained, the shadows clawed back, not ready to yield. In that moment of chaos, something shifted. Mommy! Lily shouted again, her small frame illuminating for just a second as hope flickered within the light's grasp. And then it all shattered. The locket jolted violently in her hand, the light flicked brightly, suddenly dimming again as shadows roared in retaliation, wrapping tighter around the children, tightening their grip. Not again! Laura cried, panic surging through her. The shadows pulsed with life, flooding the air with echoes of Clara's cruel taunts. What was left to do? The children's faces wavered in and out of view, wavering hope twisting in the swell of darkness. What would she sacrifice? How far was she willing to fall before saving them? As the floor trembled beneath her, the laughter grew deafening. In a moment of realization, she understood that there might only be one path to save them all, but at what cost? The choice could push them further into the dark or set them free. With her heart racing, she took a deep breath, opening herself to that piercing truth one last time. Clara. And as she spoke the name, a heartbeat thrummed beneath the attic floor, reverberating through the chill of night. What lay hidden beneath, waiting to be unleashed? The air shifted around Laura, thickening into a heavy fog of despair and dread. Her heart hammered louder, matching the pulse she felt below. What was hidden beneath that rotten floor? The shadows grew bolder, their tendrils whipping across the attic like a swirling storm, eager to engulf her whole. Mommy! The cries from her children snapped at her resolve, sending icy tendrils of fear creeping down her spine. Each cry cut through her, desperate and haunting, but this time they were supplemented with something else, growing discontent and bitterness from within the darkness. Mommy, we're scared. The shadows warped their voices, bending them to their will, rendering them grotesque mockeries. It was all she could do not to sink to the floor, paralyzed by the stark realization that her children were losing their fight against the darkness. They couldn't hold out much longer. In a moment of frantic desperation, she spoke Clara's name again, louder this time. Clara. The word ripped through the silence like a thunderclap, and for a heartbeat, everything paused. Ah, so sweet of you to remember, came Clara's voice, sultry and serpentine, dripping with malice. The attic dimmed, shadows swirling tighter, as if the very air was waiting for a showdown. Laura's breath shook, and she felt the locket grow hotter in her grasp, now ablaze with potential energy. Do you understand what you're asking for? Clara continued, her tone almost teasing. What lies beneath longs to be free, if you would only open the door. A sudden sense of foreboding gripped Laura. What door? She breathed, her voice quaking with doubt. The shadows swelled, as if answering her question. The floorboards creaked ominously, echoing her instinctive fears. Let it out, Clara urged, her voice sultry, coaxing. The weight of temptation pressed upon Laura. What could be hidden there? Strength? Power? Or an abyss that would swallow them all? Mommy. Ethan's voice cracked through the chaos, sharp and slicing through her contemplation. Please. No. Laura shouted over the din, shaking her head furiously. I won't sacrifice you. But the shadows wriggled anew, whispering sweet promises of victory, fluttering dangerous thoughts in her mind. You will be powerful, they hissed. You can save them. Clenching her jaw, Laura focused on the locket. She willed the light to grow brighter, pushing against the shadows that clung to her, baring their teeth. She would fight until her dying breath. Suddenly, the ground beneath her rippled violently, a deep rumbling echoing as it resonated with the heartbeat below. The floor splintered, jagged cracks spiderwebbed outward. The darkness roared, a cacophony of rage meeting defiance, and Laura lost her footing, collapsing onto the trembling wood. No! A guttural scream erupted from within her as she scrambled back to her feet. She had to hold on. As she steadied herself, shadows danced dangerously close, teasing her with glimpses of hidden horrors. Every fragment of her soul screamed for her to run. She could almost see something lurking in the void, a dark mass writhing beneath, eager to break free. Ethan and Lily's cries scrambled through the tumult, desperate for their mother, for the light within her that flickered against the encroaching darkness. The locket blazed again, illuminating Clara's twisted grin in stark relief. What will you give, Laura? Clara taunted, seduction dripping from her words. What's the price of their lives? Perhaps a little taste of power? To let go. But as the shadows circled, Laura felt something inside her ignite a fierce determination. They wouldn't win. They couldn't. The children's fearful faces flickered in and out, pleading. What would it take to save them? As the heartbeat thinned, the air crackling with tension, Laura knew she had to decide now. In that potent moment, a decision crystallized in her mind. She could summon the very darkness Clara wanted unleashed, channel it, twist it to protect her children. But at what price? Clara! She roared, bravery surging through her veins like fire. I choose to fight. The shadows paused, surprise rippling through their ranks. And from the depths of the unknown, something stirred, waiting to see if she truly meant it, something that could change everything. What was lurking beneath? What would it awaken within her? A reckoning was coming, and it waited with bated breath. The tension in the attic coiled tighter as Laura's declaration hung in the air, a firecracker waiting to explode. Shadows swarmed around her, hungry and exultant at her challenge. She could feel them just beneath the surface, pulsating with dark energy, ready to respond. Her heart drummed in her chest, a chaotic rhythm echoing the wrath of the dark mass just below the floorboards. With every heartbeat, she sensed the awakening. Something was resisting, yet eager to break free. Clara's gaze gleamed with a sinister delight, her shadowy form flickering like a candle in a wicked breeze. Courage, dear Laura. Clara crooned, delighting in the chaos. What will you do when reality slips through your fingers? Will you still fight when the darkness holds your power? As if in answer, the floor roared beneath her, twisting as if gripped by a malevolent force. The ancient wood splintered with a deafening crack, and Laura staggered back, nearly losing her balance. Ethan! Lily! She cried, panic lacing her voice. Their cries echoed in the dim space, a haunting choir heightened by the echoing groans of the house. Foolish mother, Clara hissed, her voice dripping with derision, you think you can save them? They're already lost. Laura shook her head defiantly. Each anguished cry of her children pierced her heart like a stake, fueling her resolve. The locket in her hand pulsed with light, brightening a narrow area around her, pushing back against shadows that sought to devour them whole. It felt alive, almost sentient, responding to her desperation. Then, from below, a guttural growl echoed, a sound that sent shivers racing down Laura's spine. The floorboards quaked violently again, a dark tremor that made it clear, whatever lay beneath was eager for freedom. Don't let it take you, Laura. The words of her mother, decades old and filled with urgency, rang in her ears. A warning from the grave, or perhaps a final appeal from a wise woman who had seen the world shift on its axis. The shadows grew more aggressive, crashing around her in a deafening wind, mocking her. The darkness is strong. You will never win. They hissed, each syllable like knives to her resolve, but Laura pushed through the fear, remembering the faces of her children, that joy and innocence she had fought to protect. Her breath quickened, and she ground her teeth, clenching the locket like a talisman. I want to let you take them. I choose the light, and I'll use your darkness against you. With a surge of fierce energy, she called upon the locket. Light erupted, breaking through the choking shadows, illuminating the attic with an otherworldly glow. The darkness shrieked in protest, retreating momentarily as if burned. She focused on that light, feeling it flow through her, igniting the embers of forgotten strength. Release them. She commanded the shadows, her voice steady now. Return what you've taken. I will not bow to you. Instinctively, she felt the opposition coil and shift, sensing a flicker of hesitation in the once dominant shadows. They shrieked louder, as if the impending confrontation had awoken something gloriously monstrous beneath. Suddenly, the ground erupted in a burst of splintering wood and a horrific wail of despair. Laura staggered backward, the locket pulsing frantically with the illumination of her defiance. An entity clawed its way from the darkness, eyes glowing with fury, teeth bared, a face she could barely comprehend, twisted and grotesque. As it surged forward, shadows surged with it, a nightmare unleashed. Mommy! Came the desperate cries again, layered with terror as if the darkness had blurred the edges of reality into madness. Time seemed to freeze, and in that breathless moment, Laura realized the truth. In saving her children, she might have unleashed far worse than she had ever imagined. A battle of nightmares had begun, one that would test every shred of her strength and courage. What would she have to sacrifice when the line between light and dark blurred? Would her love for them be enough to claim victory, or would it doom them all? The darkness surged, a living tide, as Laura braced herself for the unimaginable. With a guttural roar, the entity emerged, its ghastly visage a twisted amalgamation of lost souls, driven to madness by the weight of their eternal despair. An otherworldly howl echoed behind it, reverberating through the attic, rattling the walls to their very core. "Mommy!" Ethan's voice pierced through the chaos. It was a thread of hope, a lifeline woven through despair. Laura's heart thudded violently, her body teetering on the edge of terror and defiance. "I'm here!" she shouted, her resolve crystallizing like ice in the face of fire. She raised the locket high, its light burning against the encroaching shadows, casting flickering illumination across the nightmare surrounding her. The creature flinched, and for a heartbeat, the shadows faltered. Fighting the instinct to run, Laura took a steadying breath, remembering her mother's words about courage, the kind that fueled the heart. With renewed purpose, she hurled the locket towards the frantic shadows, its glow intensifying as it flew. "You will not have them!" she screamed, every muscle clenched, channeling every ounce of her love for her children into that one desperate act. Light erupted as the locket collided with the darkness, ripping a fissure in the shadows, and a blinding explosion of warmth swept through the attic. The screams morphed into confusion, twisting into anguish as the light unfurled, pushing back against the malevolent mass that had claimed so many before. "Ethan! Lily! Come to me!" Laura called over the crescendo of chaos, drawing strength from the blazing light. Whispers of the lost faded like echoes in the wind, turning into the spectral faces of children, benign and longing, rising up from the floorboards where the shadows recoiled. They reached for her with tiny hands, imploring her not to let go. "Mommy!" they shouted, their voices woven together with an urgency that chilled her to her core. "Don't leave us! Never!" Laura cried, grounding her feet firmly against the chaos, a pillar against the storm. "I'm coming for you!" With the light flaring, she dashed toward the swirling void where her children were ensnared, holding the locket close to her heart. The shadows grew fierce, fighting with a primal desperation. Mocking laughter morphed into wails of despair as they battled against the warmth. But each step she took was resolute, fueled by the fierce love wrapped securely around her heart. "Stay close. Hold on to my voice," she urged, pulling Ethan and Lily back from the brink of darkness, her own body trembling against the cold tendrils that sought them. "You can't take them," she snarled into the void. "They belong to the light. We will not succumb." The air thickened, and once again, Clara's voice wafted through the chaos, a dark lullaby that tried to worm its way into her thoughts. "Laura, you can save them. Just let go. Embrace the darkness." "No!" Laura shouted defiantly, spitting the word back like poison. "I choose them." With a violent pulse, the locket blazed, and a brilliant beam shot through the darkness, illuminating every crevice within the shadows, until even Clara's twisted form was revealed, mouth gasping in shock at the intensity. "No! You must sacrifice something," Clara hissed, her form convulsing as the shadows shrank away from Laura's momentum. But Laura could feel the pulse within her. It was Clara who needed to sacrifice. The air crackled, glittering with energy that rose from her heart, a symphony of light piercing the depths of the abyss. "Let go of those who you love most?" "Never!" Laura screamed, the shadows twisting, and for whatever darkness lurked beneath, she knew now, love was the most potent weapon against despair. In that fierce moment, something within Laura shifted. Power coursed through her veins, a current of ancient energy pulsing brightly within the shadows, igniting a spark that lit a raging fire. "I will be the shield, and you," she paused, her voice booming, "will be nothing but echoes." With one final push, Laura surged forward, harnessing the brilliant light of the locket, spilling it onto the shadows that recoiled, screeching with incoherent fury in the face of light. Clara shrieked as Laura smirked, sensing the beast's retreat. His dark form shimmered, dissipating as a piercing light led the way for her children. "This ends now," Laura shouted, thrusting her hands forward with all the force within her. The remaining shadows snarled, writhing in a terrifying dance of oblivion before finally burst apart, freeing Ethan and Lily from their grip. Time stood still, breathless with the intensity of the moment. She flung herself forward as the light spiraled around the shadows. Then, as if the very universe shifted, the darkness began to shatter, splinters of midnight breaking free into glittering stars, and in that breathtaking instant, all was still, the attic filled with blinding white, and then Laura felt her children in her arms, clinging to her like lifelines, their warmth radiating against her skin. Pushing through the afterglow of darkness fading away, she knelt and pulled them close. "Mommy's here. You're safe. We made it." As the last remnants of shadows were engulfed in brilliant light, the air hummed peacefully, and the once familiar echoes of past sorrow transformed into murmurs of hope. Cedar Hollow, with all its ghosts, began its slow and painful healing, each whisper hallmarking renewal, each breath an ending and a beginning. Together, they stood as dawn broke through the attic window, wrapping its gentle glow around them. And as she clasped the locket, the chilling weight lifted from Laura's chest, leaving nothing but freedom and a promise, the kind that spoke of hope, family, and the unwavering bonds that tether them all. They would leave Cedar Hollow behind, but not without its lessons, each whisper echoing their triumph. This was not just their escape, it was a journey into the light. And together, they stepped into a new day. So remember, there's always a spark of hope, even in the darkest shadows. But now, if you enjoyed this journey, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second. Hit that like button to support this channel and feed the algorithm. Seriously, I can't do this without you, so flood the comments with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this conclusion. And share this story with at least 5 friends, help them experience this powerful ending. Your support is what keeps these incredible tales alive.